Namaste. Let's read further paragraphs from the Communist Manifesto and try to understand. In the previous video, we read paragraph 13 and 14, where we saw how the bourgeois class destroys the old class antagonisms but gives birth to new classes and new forms of exploitation. Let's read paragraph 15. Marx writes, the bourgeoisie has stripped off its halo every occupation hitherto honored and looked up to with reverent awe. It has converted the physician, the lawyer, the priest, the poet, and the man of science into its paid wage laborers. The point to understand is that previously the professions were honored. A physician was respected for the job, the lawyer was respected for the service. The priest was respected for the service he provided. The poet was respected for the creation. The scientist was respected. But today, we feel that the doctor helps us because we pay money. The lawyer helps us because we pay money. The priest helps us because we pay money. The poet recites the poem because we pay money. So the people, the lawyer, the priest, the professions have become like paid wage laborers because money has become everything in everything. Let's go to paragraph 16. The bourgeoisie has torn away from the family's sentimental veil and has reduced the family relation to a mere money relation. Even inside a family, the relations among father, mother, daughter, sister, brother has become money relation. If daddy gives you a lot of money for your college expenditures, you love him. Let's say the point is that the relation that was among the family members, intimate relation that has died away, and money has taken place of all relations because even in family, the most important thing has become money. Paragraph 17. The bourgeoisie has disclosed how it came to pass that the brutal display of vigor in the Middle Ages, which reactionaries so much admire, found its fitting complement in the most slothful indolence. It has been the first to show what man's activity can bring about. It has accomplished wonders far surpassing Egyptian pyramids, Roman aqueducts, and Gothic cathedrals. It has conducted expeditions that put in the shade all former exoduses of nations and crusades. So, in the 17th paragraph, what Karl Marx is saying is that uh, the bourgeois class, the middle class, shows a brutal display of vigor. For example, the businessman, the middle class, goes anywhere around the world. Even he will go to moons to sell his items and make money. So the bourgeois class will go anywhere, will do anything, good or bad, to make money and to make profit. Paragraph 18. The bourgeoisie cannot exist without constantly revolutionizing the instruments of production and thereby the relations of production. Two words here. Instruments of production. As you saw, the serfs, the feudal industrial system, the manufacturing system, and then the industrial system, then giant industrial system. Every time you have new production system, you have complex instruments, developed instruments, modern technology of production. So there are two words, instruments of production and relations of production. As instruments of production changes, relations of production also changes. There are three words, instruments of production, relations of production, and relations of society. They all three go together. If instruments of production change, relations of production also change. When these two change, social relations also change and a new class is born. The society relations also change, right? Let's read. Conservation of the old modes of production in unaltered form was, on the contrary, the first condition of existence for all earlier industrial classes. So, old classes depended on old modes of production. I repeat, old classes depended on old modes of production. When the modes of production change, classes change. Constantly revolutionizing of production, uninterrupted disturbance of all social conditions. I read again. Constantly revolutionizing of production. So the bourgeois revolutionizes production. Why? Because the bourgeois wants to produce more so that it can sell more, so that it can make more profit. Uninterrupted disturbance of all social conditions. And the bourgeois disturbs all social conditions because the bourgeois exploits all classes. Everlasting uncertainty and agitation distinguish the bourgeois epoch from all earlier ones. So the present era, or let's say the time when Marx was writing, the mid-19th century era, this was characterized by revolutionary production. This was characterized by social disturbance. This was characterized by uncertainty and agitation. Why? Because the bourgeois, the most powerful class, was exploiting all other classes. All fixed and fast frozen relations all the way from the ancient time, with their train of ancient and venerable prejudices and opinions are swept away. Old relations are destroyed. All new formed ones become antiquated before they can ossify. Even new relations change. All that is solid melts into air, all that is holy is profaned, and man is at last compelled to face with sober senses his real conditions of life and his relations with his kind. And this relation, this new relation of man to another man, is based on money, cash. In this relation, one man exploits another man. Paragraph 19. The need of a constantly expanding market for its products changes the bourgeoisie over the entire surface of the globe. As he said earlier, the bourgeois will go anywhere in the world to sell its products and make money. It must nestle everywhere. Do you see today the goods you use in your kitchen or in a bag, they come from foreign countries, countries across the oceans. It must nestle everywhere, settle everywhere, establish connections everywhere. Why everywhere? To make profit. Paragraph 20. The bourgeoisie has, through its exploitation of the world market, given a cosmopolitan character to production. As you can see today, we have multinational companies. Coca-Cola is in Nepal, it's everywhere. So there is cosmopolitan production of nature of production. Goods are produced around the world in many countries, and consumption. Goods are consumed. Something is produced in Nepal, consumed in America. Something may be produced in Canada, consumed in India. To the great chagrin of reactionists, it has drawn from under the feet of industry the national ground. So today there is no national industry. We have international industry. There is no national business. We have international business. All old established national industries have been destroyed or are daily being destroyed. Look, even in Nepal, you see multinational companies come, multinational factories come, industries come, and national industries die away. They are dislodged by new industries, multinational industries, whose introduction becomes a life and death question for all civilized nations by industries that no longer work up indigenous raw material. Now, look, these multinational companies do not use local raw material, do not use local resources, but raw material drawn from the remotest zones. For example, KFC in Kathmandu imports chicken from Brazil. Industries whose products are consumed not only at home but in every quarter of the globe. In place of the old wants satisfied by the production of the country, we find new wants requiring for their satisfaction the products of distant lands and climes. Look, KFC, the want of KFC is satisfied by chicken brought from Brazil all the way. Whereas in the old times, you had local chicken at home. In Nepali homes, you grew local, you bred local chicken, you raised local chicken, and you satisfied your desire for meat. But now, the same desire for meat is satisfied by importing chicken all the way from Brazil, right? So our needs are not satisfied by country production. Our needs are satisfied by foreign production. Okay. We find new wants requiring for their satisfaction and production of distant lands and climes. In place of the old local and national seclusion and self-sufficiency. Previously, our countries were secluded and self-sufficient. They didn't have to import much. Whatever they needed, they grew themselves. We have intercourse in every direction, universal interdependence of nations. Today, no country is independent for consumption items. Every country imports something from other country. So that independence is gone. Why? Because there are multinational companies. And as in material, so also in intellectual production. Not only material productions are imported, our ideas are also imported. Look, this essay by Karl Marx, it was written in Germany, in Britain, and now we're reading Nepal. Our ideas are imported. The intellectual creations of individual nations become common property. World Trade Organization. National one-sidedness and narrow-mindedness become more and more impossible. Today, no country can survive alone without depending on export and import. And from the numerous national and local literature, there arises a world literature. Just as there is world trade, there is world literature. See, world trade, basic structure. World literature, superstructure. Because we eat foreign food, we also eat foreign ideas. Paragraph 21. The bourgeoisie, by the rapid improvement of all the instruments of production, see the phrase, instruments of production. Instruments of production are revolutionized to produce more by the immensely facilitated means of communication. Look, number one, improved instruments of production. Number two, means of communication. Using means of production and means of communication, the bourgeoisie draws even the most barbarian nations into civilization. The cheap prices of commodities are the heavy artillery with which it batters down all Chinese walls. Look, a multinational company produces huge amount and it can sell at cheaper price. And when the multinational companies sell at cheaper price, local companies they die away because they can't compete. Okay, so the best weapon that bourgeois has is cheaper item. It will sell the same item at a very cheaper price, and local farmers, local people, local products can't compete. Okay, it compels all nations on pain of extinction to adopt the bourgeois mode of production. As a result, every country has to follow World Trade Organization. Every country has to follow free competition. Every country has to follow middle class culture. Every country has to follow business class culture. Every country has to follow bourgeois mode of production. It compels them to introduce what it calls civilization into their midst. Look, with the bourgeois mode of production, we have bourgeois mode of civilization into their midst to become bourgeois themselves, and the whole world becomes bourgeois. In one word, it creates a world after its image. The kind of food you eat makes the kind of view you have. So you eat bourgeois food, you become bourgeois. Bourgeois culture, bourgeois literature, bourgeois ideology, because bourgeois economy. Bourgeois economy brings bourgeois culture, and everything becomes bourgeois. Just go down and read paragraph 22. The bourgeoisie has subjected the country to the rule of the towns. Now look, villages depend on towns. Farmers in the village grow crops, food, vegetable, and they depend on the town to sell. Businessmen. It has created enormous cities. Look, villages into towns, towns into cities. Has greatly increased the urban population as compared with the rural. How true? Look, today, most populations live in urban cities, less people in villages, and villages are helpless without cities, and has thus rescued a considerable part of the population from the idiocy of rural life, just as it has made the country dependent on the town. Look, villages depend on town, so it has made barbarian and semi-barbarian countries dependent on the civilized ones, nations of peasants on nations of bourgeois, the East on the West. West means America, Europe, the capitalistic society, East Asia, for example, the traditional society. Now, today, the farmer depends on the businessman, the village depends on the town depends on the city. Do you see? Every section of society depends on the business class. The bourgeoisie keeps more and more doing away with the scattered state of population of, do you see, in modern times, all population gathers in a city. People go where there is business. You build a road, on both sides you will see shops appear. What do shops do? They buy and sell goods, money making. The bourgeoisie keeps more and more doing away with the scattered state of the population of the means of production and the property. It changes means of production, it changes property, it changes uh, population demography. It has agglomerated population. Population comes together, people come together, centralize the means of production. You see, industrial zones we have today, all factories come together, and has concentrated property in few hands. Today, 10% of the people in the world control 90% of the property. The necessary consequences of this was political centralization. As the bourgeois centralizes economic power, it also centralizes political power. Independent or but loosely connected provinces with separate interests, laws, governments, and systems of taxation become lumped together into one nation with one government, one code of law, one national class interest, one frontier, and one custom tariff, one bourgeois, one interest. 24. The bourgeoisie, during its rule of scarce 100 years, has created more. He is writing in 1848. So he says 100 means 1748 to 1848. The bourgeoisie, during its rule of scarce 100 years, has created more massive and more colossal productive forces than have all preceding generations together. Subjugation of nature's forces to man. Look, today the bourgeoisie class, middle class, or business class has all the money. They build factories, they build canals, they build dams. Subjugation of nature's forces to man, machinery, application of chemistry to industry and agriculture, steam navigation, railway, electric telegraph, clearing of whole continents for cultivation, canalization of rivers, whole populations conjured out of the ground. What earlier century had even a presentiment that such productive forces slumbered in the lap of the social labor. Look, the bourgeois hires labor with paying money, and look, controls every nature, it does everything on, it does unimaginable things. We see then the means of production and of exchange on whose foundation the bourgeoisie built itself up. Let me, it's too long, so I'll pause here and come back to next series and begin from paragraph 25.